Good afternoon, students. Hi, this is your Polomi ma'am. Hope you remember me. So, in today's first class, the topic that we are going to discuss is the basic introduction to microprocessors. Okay, so before starting, let me make you very clear. If you have any queries, any doubts, any questions, do mail me or you can send me your questions in the WhatsApp. Okay, I will try to answer as much as possible, or we can have a question answer round at the end of the session. Clear? I'll try to answer. If I'm not able to answer, I will surely answer in the next class. Clear? Okay, now let us start. So we all have heard about 8085, 8086 or any other microprocessor or microcontroller. So in all of them, the basics of processing remains the same. So the basic question that comes to our mind is, why are we learning microprocessor, right? So microprocessors are used everywhere around us. In fact, between you and me right now, all the various devices that you are using, okay, right from uploading the video, right from recording the video and uploading it, the routers, the servers, all of them use microprocessors, and that is why now you and I can communicate with each other despite of this lockdown, right? So we should be thankful to microprocessors. So where do we require microprocessor? Where do we require microprocessor? Can you tell? So if you see, there is no work of microprocessor in tube light, fan, etc. But in remote control, yes. Mobile phone, yes. In a computer, definitely yes. So what is the work of microprocessor? Why tube lights and fans don't require microprocessor, but a remote control mobile phone requires? Why? Because they require programming. So whenever you need programming, you need a processor. The only thing that can execute a program is a processor. So any device that you see around you, if there is any programming involved, you should definitely understand that there is a microprocessor inside. Is that clear? Is it clear up to here? So basic is, if you see any programming device, okay, or a device that requires a programming, you should definitely understand that there is a processor inside. Clear? So the fan and the tube lights, they don't require any programming. If you switch on the fan, it will revolve. If you switch on the tube light, it will glow. Okay, the remote control fans, the remote control tube lights, that is a different question. I'm not going to that. But the basic fan and tube lights that you are using, which are operated with the switches, so they don't require programming. They don't have any processor inside. Okay, but the remote control mobile phone, computer, say all of your camera, all of them uses a programming method. Okay, understood? And there is a processor inside. Now the best example of a device that I can give is a traffic light control system. Now you all know about traffic light control system. Now we all are engineering students, right? You and me. Now the best whenever you see, before going to the basic algorithm, I am showing you the block diagram. You can see the 8085 microprocessor over here. You can see the 5-volt power supply. Okay, you see the LED. This 5-volt power supply is the input, and this is the output signal that you are seeing in the LED display. Okay, now this is the timer and this is the display's waiting time. This is the programming section. Okay, now I am not going to details because this is a basic introduction class, so we will not go into the details. Now if you now as a student or as an engineer, you should understand that there is a programming running behind the traffic light control. So what is the algorithm? See here, I have shown the algorithm. I am not going to details here. The basic steps that is they are using is, you show the red light, wait for some time. You show the yellow light, wait for some time. You show the green light, wait for some time. All of them you put it in a loop. Okay, and so there is a programming method, and that definitely uses a microprocessor, right? That definitely uses a microprocessor. Clear up to here? See here, you delay for some time, here also delay for some time, delay for some time. There is a glowing some light and they are waiting for some time. Okay, and that's why, see here, this is the display's waiting time. Okay, so they have put in a loop. See, repeat from the first, they have put in a loop, and this is the basic algorithm of a traffic light control system. If you want, you can make it a project, make a project on traffic light control system using 8085. Okay. Now let's go to the, clear up to here? Okay, let's go to this an example just where 8085 can be used. Now, maximum use of microprocessors is seen in the computers. Now, if we go to market and buy a laptop or computer, which processor we will find? Yes, it is the Intel Core i7 or AMD processors. These processors which are using today are a result of tremendous development of technology. So we will start our course with the very basic microprocessor, which was the initial commercial successful microprocessor. So the first successful commercial microprocessor introduced by Intel was 8085. It was the basic processor to explore the world of computing. Clear? It was the basic processor to explore the world of computing, 8085. Then came 8086, 80186, 80286, 80386, 80486. So all these are from 86 families. Then came 80586. Now 80586 is also known as Pentium 1. Okay, so Pentium 1, with the involvement of Pentium 1, the entertainment came into picture in the form of movies, games and whatnot. Right, you all know that. Then came Pentium 2, Pentium 3, Code to Duo. Code to Duo was introduced in 2004. Then Core i7, it was introduced in 2008, and still it is continuing with further generations of it. So there is where the world has reached today. So well, you'll be asking that, well, then if the so many developed processors we have right now, then why you are learning 8085 when so much developed processors are already there? The answer is because we need to clear our basics. Okay, if you don't know the basic, how can you read about the higher processors, right? So now you'll ask me, ma'am, in today's world where 8085 and 8086 are used. Now let me tell you that Intel has stopped producing the basic processors like 8085, 8086. What it has done, it has outsourced the architectural license to small companies. Okay, they produce processors of such grade like 8085 and 8086. Okay, the numbers may not be same, like 8085 and 8086, but they are of the same grade. For example, the traffic light control, which we are discussing in the previous slide, okay, they don't use Pentium or Code to Duo. Okay, they use basic processors like 8085 and 8086. The traffic light controllers, they don't require higher grade processors. Okay, they use the basic processors like 8085 or 8086. So if you ask on what processors they are, it may not be 8085 or 8086, but if you learn the architecture of the processor, you will see that they are of the same grade like 8085 and 8086. Clear? So this is the evolution of the processors. Clear up to here? If there is any doubt, please, I am telling you again and again, tell me in the chat box. Write your questions in the chat box. We will discuss it later on at the end of this session. Okay? Okay. Now, if you have not understood any slide, then tell then and then. I will repeat the slide. Okay? Okay. Now, you all have a computer. There are so many objects in a computer, right? So where does the microprocessor fit in? Now let us go back to the school basics. You will be laughing at this, but let me revise. The keyboard and the mouse are input devices, right? So the printer and monitor are output devices. What is their job? Their job is to input the text or numbers or give the output as done by the monitors. That is, the monitors and the printers are the output devices. Their job is to give the output, and the keyboard on the mouse, their job is to give the input. So all, they don't decide anything. Okay, whatever instructions given to them, they act accordingly. So where all the decision making is done, all the decision making is done in the CPU. Okay, we all know that. Now in the CPU, if you see a CPU, if you open the CPU, you see you have a motherboard, right? You all know about the motherboard. So right in the middle you will see a big flat chip. It will be covered by heatsink or a fan. Okay, you can unhook the fan. Okay, if you unhook the fan, you will see your microprocessor. You will see your microprocessor. Okay, so the same thing I put in a small diagram. See here, this is the block diagram of a computer system. So whatever we see in a computer, it can be broadly classified into these three sections: the memory section, the input output section, and the processor. Okay, so this big section is known as the memory section. Here all the information are stored. This is a bit cropped. Here all the information are stored. So all the basics of memory you will be able to learn in your theory classes. So this section is the input output section. As already said, the function is to give the input and output. They don't do any sort of processing. Okay, and memory also doesn't do any sort of processing. It stores information or data. Okay, that everything that gets stored in the memory is either a program file or data file. Clear? Everything that gets stored in the memory is either a program file or data file. Okay, now for example, WhatsApp. What is a program file or data file? WhatsApp you are using today. Okay, every day we all are using. So the text messages what are we are typing, what are they? They are the data. Okay, but WhatsApp is an application. It is a program. Clear? It is a program. Then again you take the example of Real Player. You all know about Real Player. That is a program. Real Player is a program, but the music you are hearing is the data. Similarly, the image viewer you are using is a program and the images are the data. So you are all have understood about the program file and data file. What is the difference? Okay, now so whatever we use in a computer are either program file or data file. They are stored in the memory. Clear? They are whatever you use in a computer are either program file or data file, and they are stored in the memory. So the hard disk, floppy, pen drive, cache memory, RAM, ROM, all these are examples of your memory. They are secondary memory. They are used for secondary storage. Okay, you all know that the main work is done in the primary memory. All this you will understand in details in your theory classes, but here I need to tell a little bit about it. Okay, so let me go to the history a bit. So 8085 and 8086 were made in 1970s. Secondary memories was non-existent at that time. Secondary memories was not in picture at that time. It was introduced much later to increase the background storage. So what computers needed mostly at that time was basic primary memory. Clear? So in 8085 and 8086, secondary memory will not come to the picture. What we are dealing with is the primary memory. So in 8085 or 8086, the word for storage will be primary memory. Clear? The word for storage will be primary memory. So we all know primary memories are RAM and ROM. So throughout the learning of 8085, okay, whenever I will be referring to memory, you should understand, when I will be referring to memory, it will be primary memory, that is either RAM or ROM. So I think we are clear about this, right? So we all know ROM is used only for memory. ROM is read only memory, that is you cannot write, you can only read. So this is used for permanent storage, right? You can, once the storage is done, it is permanent. Now RAM is used for both read and write. It is volatile, it is temporary, but you can read and write both. Clear? You all know that these are the basics that you have learned in your school. So I think I don't have to repeat the same. Okay, so if you switch off the computer, what happens? The contents of RAM are erased, whereas the contents of ROM, they are permanent. Okay, so when you use memory, it is your utmost interest to keep RAM in mind. Clear? So when you use memory, it is your utmost interest to keep RAM in mind. When our phone starts, for example, if your phone starts acting slow, you check how much memory is remaining. So right, so which memory you are checking? Yes, it is the RAM. So whenever you delete those apps, your RAM becomes free and they are stored in secondary storage. Clear? They are stored in secondary storage. So memory is used for clear up to this? Again I am telling, do write your questions, okay, and tell me in the chat box or mail me or WhatsApp me. I'll try to answer as much as possible. Clear? Okay, so now coming back, so memory is used for storing what? Programs and data. So data can be numbers, texts, images, songs, videos. So if you want to store a song, a movie, or an image, understood, it is not stored as a song or a movie or an image. Not clear? If you, again I am repeating, if you want to store a song, a movie, or an image, it is not stored as a song or a movie or an image in the memory. How you will ask how it is stored then, ma'am? It is stored in the form of millions and millions of zeros and ones. Okay, 0 and 1 you have learned about in digital, right? So these songs, images, or movies, whatever you are listening, whatever you are seeing, these are all stored in the memory in the form of zeros and ones. So whatever image we see, whatever song we hear, all are series of zeros and ones. Clear? So if you want, we can talk about the bits, zeros and ones in a separate lecture. Okay, here I will not be discussing. If you want, we can talk about it in a different lecture, that how these images are get stored in the form of zeros and ones. Okay, that is a part of image processing. We will, if you want, let me know. I will discuss about it in a separate lecture. Okay, I'm not going to it in here now. So more and more combination of bits will give you more and more good quality of images, songs, and videos. Okay, the more combination of bits, the better quality you get. Okay, so if you want to understand memory, you don't need to store a song, you need to understand how to store a bit. If you know how to store a bit, you will know how to store a song or a video or an image, right? Because again I'm repeating, the videos, the songs, the images, or whatever multimedia you are using, they are stored in the memory in the form of zeros and ones. Okay, zeros and ones. Clear? Okay, now let's come to the processor. Now as you have seen in the block diagram, the processor, see here, the processor, it controls the memory and it controls the input output section. Okay, the memory and the input output, they don't control each other. See, they don't control each other. So the function of the processor is to execute the programs. So where the programs are stored, what is the function of the processor? The function of the processor is to execute the programs. So where the programs are stored, they are stored in the memory, right? So you type any program in the keyboard, you hit the execute button, right? You are typing the program on the keyboard, right? And then the program gets stored in the memory, right? And then you hit the execute button. So what happens then? Let me go to the slide. See, the processor, it fetches the instruction, it starts fetching the instructions one by one from the memory. Okay, it starts fetching the instructions one by one from the memory, one by one, not at a time, one by one it fetches the instructions from the memory. And this fetching means getting the instructions. Okay, fetching means getting the instructions. So it starts getting the instructions from the memory one by one, and this process, okay, and this process that is called fetching. Okay, this process is called fetching. See, the processor takes the first instruction of the program from the memory, and the process is called fetching. Okay, so the first step that you are happens is fetching. Whenever you write the program in the keyboard and then you hit the execute button, the first thing that that will happen is fetching. The processor will fetch the instruction from, it will take the first instruction from the memory. Okay, now we type the next step is decoding. So what is decoding? Okay, now let's see here. Here I have written a equals to b plus c. You have used this type of languages in your C, right? So these are called high level language programs. Okay, and here then next instruction I have written at b comma c. This type of instructions we will be using in 8085. Okay, here B and C, these are registers, 8-bit registers. So what are registers, what are 8-bit registers, we will be discussing later on when you will start programming. Okay, for now you just understand that this B and C are some storing registers. Here some data will be stored, B and C. Here some data will be stored, and if you write add, the data stored in register B and the data stored in register C, they will be added. Okay, they will be added. So this type of instructions fall under the assembly language. Okay, this type of programs are called assembly language programs. Clear? Clear up to this? Okay. Now this is 0011 1011. You all know these are binary numbers, and these are called lower level language or machine code or object code. Okay, so whenever we write programs, we don't type 011011. Okay, we don't write programs in lower level language. We write programs either in high level language or in machine level language. Clear? So whenever we write in high level language or in assembly language, okay, we give it to either compiler or assembler. Okay, if you write the program in high level language, we give the programs to compiler. If we write the programs in assembly language, we give it to the assembler. Okay, clear? I think you all know about compiler and assembler. Okay, so what does the compiler do? What does the compiler do? The compiler converts the high level language into machine level language, so that it can be executed by the processors. If you write a equals to b plus c, the processor will not understand that what is a equals to b plus c. This is the function of the compiler, to convert the high level language into machine level language or binary language in the form of zeros and ones, so that it can be executed by the processor. So when you compile a program, it gets converted into binary language. Clear? You are typing a equals to b plus c, but the compiler converts into machine level language and stores in the memory in the binary form, that is in zeros and ones. Similarly, I think we are clear. Similarly, if we type in assembly language program, you give it to the assembler. So the function of the assembler is to convert the assembly language program into machine level language program, and then it gets stored in the form of binary language in the memory. Clear? So, and the processor executes the program. So point is, when you type a program either in assembly language program or high level language program, it gets stored in memory in binary. It gets stored in memory in binary. If you write at b comma c, okay, it will be stored in binary in the memory. So how it is getting converted? By the assembler. So it is the assembler or compiler which converts the program into machine level language. Clear? So the microprocessor fetches the instruction which are in binary form from the memory. Understood the fetching? What is fetching? Again I am repeating, it is the process of taking the instruction from the memory. So this is called fetching. So it is not fetching a equals to b plus c or at b comma c. It is fetching the binary form of the instruction from the memory. Okay, this binary form of the instruction is called opcode. This binary form of the instruction is called opcode or operation code. Okay, what is operation code? It is the code of the operation to be performed. Clear up to this? It is the code of the operation to be performed. So whenever the processor fetches the, again I am repeating from the first, when you are typing a key, I think you got confused, so let me revise what I have told. So what you are typing a program in the keyboard, okay, and then you are hitting the execute button. This is your job done. Now you are giving it to the processor, okay, will take the you are giving the you are typing the program in either high level language or we are talking about 8085, so I'll talk about assembly language program. So you are typing the program in assembly language, okay. Now what does the assembler will do? It will convert your assembly language program into binary level language program, okay, into lower level language program. It will convert it into machine level language, that is in the form of zeros and ones, and this will get stored in the memory. These zeros and ones will get stored in the memory, okay. So what the microprocessor was fetching, see here, what the microprocessor was fetching, it is not fetching the instruction at b comma z, it is fetching the zeros and ones. It is fetching the zeros and ones. So you will understand you will understand better when I'll start programming, okay. But are you able to understand? Please let me know in the chat box little bit of what I'm telling. If you understand the chat, if you understand, then tell me in the chat box, okay. So whatever it is fetching, whatever the processor is fetching from the memory, it is not fetching a at b comma c, it is fetching zeros and ones, okay. You are typing at b comma c. What does the assembler do? The assembler converts the at b comma c into binary language, and this binary language, that is zeros and ones, gets stored in the memory. And so whenever the processor fetches the instructions, it fetches the zeros and ones. Clear? And this binary form of the instruction is called opcode, okay. This binary form of the instruction is called opcode. So what is opcode? The operation code, that is the code of the operation to be performed. Now I have told about add b comma c. So add, this is an instruction, right? So this add instruction will have a opcode, operation code, okay, will have a operation code. I will tell you, there is a opcode chart in 8085. You all have to download it, or I will mail it to you, okay. You have to you have the opcode. So every instruction that you will be using in 8085 will have a unique opcode, okay. For add instruction there is a opcode. For sub instruction, that you have a different opcode. You will get it clear when you start programming. You will get it very clear when you started programming, okay. So every instruction that you will be using in microprocessor 8085 will have a unique opcode, right? Now, so basically when you say microprocessor fetches the instructions, okay, the microprocessor fetches the instructions from the memory, it basically fetches, whether it is it fetching the instruction from the memory? No, it is basically fetching the opcode, okay. You are typing the instruction, but it gets stored in the memory in the form of opcode, that is operation code, that is in the form of zeros and ones. So once fetching is done, the processor has to understand what has to be done, right? It has fetched zeros and ones. Now the processor has to understand what has to be done. It will look at the binary pattern and will make sense out of it, okay. It will make, suppose it has fetched 0 0, you are typing add, okay, you are typing add, and add is represented, for example, the opcode for add is 0 0, okay. For example, the opcode for add is 0 0. So you are typing add, it gets stored in the memory in the form of 0 0, right? So the microprocessor fetches what? 0 0 from the memory. Now it will have to understand, say, what has to be done. It will make sense out of it. So that process is called decoding. Very important. Just get it clear. When it fetches 0 0, it has to understand what has to be done. So this process of understanding, the technical definition is the understanding the opcode or making sense out of the opcode is called decoding. Clear up to this? Okay, it has fetched the 0 0 from the memory. The microprocessor has fetched 0 0 from the memory. You have typed add. It gets stored in the memory in the form of 0 0. How the process is, how it gets converted into 0 0 from add to 0 0 by the assembler. Now the microprocessor fetches what? 0 0 from the memory. The fetching is done. Now the microprocessor has understood what it has to do. What it has to do out of the opcode. Okay, so understanding the opcode or making sense out of the opcode is called decoding. Clear? Now suppose we have a basic microprocessor and it has 4 instructions. This is a basic microprocessor and it has 4 instructions: add, subtract, multiplication and division. Okay, so since there are 4 instructions, so there will be 4 opcodes. 4 instructions means what I have told, every instruction has its unique opcode. Okay, so opcode, since there are 4 opcodes, so how many possible bits will be there? 2 to the power 2, that is 2 bits. 2-bit opcode. Since there are 4 instructions in this microprocessor, we will have 2-bit opcodes. Okay, so you type your program in assembly language. When it gets stored in the memory, it is stored in machine level language. That is, the assembler converted the assembly language program into machine level language program and stored in the memory. So by seeing, you can easily understand that this opcode 0 0 represents the add instruction, 0 1 represents the sub instruction, 1 0 represents the multiplication instruction, and 1 1 represents the division instruction. This is just an example. These are not the opcodes dedicated for these instructions. Okay, these instructions have different opcodes. I have taken this as example. Okay, these are not the opcodes. These are not the actual opcodes. Get it clear? These are not the actual opcodes. These I have taken as an example only. Now 0 0 I have taken for add, 0 1 I have taken for subtract, 1 0 I have taken for multiplication, 1 1 I have taken for division. Okay. Now what the microprocessor did, when it fetched the instruction, okay, it got an opcode. It fetched the first instruction. What the opcode it has got? 0 0, right? It has got 0 0. Now this microprocessor has got ready-made circuits. For doing addition, subtraction, multiplication and division. We all know in every processor there is a arithmetic logical unit. It has ready-made circuits inside it. Okay, and this arithmetic logical unit is a part of the processor. We all know. So every microprocessor has dedicated circuits for addition, subtraction, multiplication and division. So whenever which particular circuit has to be triggered, whether the addition circuit has to be triggered, whether the subtraction circuit has to be triggered, whether the multiplication circuit has to be triggered, or whether the division circuit has to be triggered, that depends on what opcode the microprocessor is fetching. Clear up to this? So I think it is clear. If it is not clear, please type in the chat box. So, okay, now let me begin again. So when the opcode came, it gave the input to this. When the microprocessor fetches the opcode, it gave it to 2:4 decoder. 0 0 came into the processor. The processor fetched the opcode 0 0 from the memory and it gave it to 2:4 decoder. Now you all know what is 2:4 decoder, right? It has 2 inputs and 4 outputs. Okay, now here what I have taken, 0 0 is for add, 0 1 is for subtraction, 1 0 for multiplication and 1 1 for division. Now as soon as the 0 0 came into microprocessor, it understood it made sense out of it. Yes, 00 is for addition, right? The microprocessor understood that 00 is for addition, and then which output will be triggered? The addition circuit, right? Because 00 is for addition. So if it sees 00, if it sees if that 00, it has fetched 00. Now it has understood, it has decoded that 00. Now it has made sense out of it. Now it will trigger the first circuit, that is the addition circuit. Now if it had seen 01, it would have triggered the subtraction circuit. If it had seen the 10, it would have triggered the multiplication circuit. Okay, if it had seen the 11, if it had faced the 11, then it would have triggered the division circuit. So this is thus the programs get executed, right? And thus the addition or the subtraction, after decoding, the whichever circuit will be triggered, okay, accordingly the function will be performed. That is, accordingly the addition, the subtraction, the multiplication, division will be performed, and your program will be executed. Clear? So this entire process of fetching, decoding and execution, this is fetching, okay, it has fetched the instruction opcode from the memory, and then it has decoded, that is, it has made sense out of it. Yes, this 00 is for add, so I have to trigger the add circuit. So after triggering, the addition was done, that means it was executed. So this entire process of fetching, decoding and execution is called instruction cycle. Okay, this entire process of fetching, decoding and execution is called entire cycle. Clear? So when high processors are used, decoding becomes bigger and bigger. We understood 2-bit opcodes here. We have taken 2-bit opcodes. For example, here as example I have taken 2-bit opcodes. Okay, so for 2-bit opcodes, how many combinations were there? 4 combinations. If it would have been 3-bit opcode, then how many combinations will be there? There would have been 8 combinations. Okay, 4-bit opcode will have 16 combinations. Of course, modern computers have hundreds and hundreds of instructions. Okay, you will be learning these in computer organizations. Clear? So in this example, I have taken only a 2-bit instruction. Okay, 2-bit opcode, that means 4 possible combinations, that is 2:4 decoder. It would have, if it had been 3-bit opcode, there would be 3 to 8 decoder. Similarly, for 4-bit opcode, it would have 16 combinations. Clear? Since a 2-bit, there are 4 combinations. Clear up to this? Now let us go to the hexadecimal numbers. Now you all know what are hexadecimal numbers. So whenever we talk about microprocessor or microcontrollers, we work on which number system? We always work on hexadecimal number system. So during our entire course of 805, whenever we will be writing any data or any address, okay, that will be in hexadecimal form. So now you will be asking, why only hexadecimal number system is used? Why not binary language? Right? So hexadecimal numbers use 16 combinations. Get it clear? Hexadecimal numbers uses 16 combinations, 0 to F, whereas the decimal number system uses 10 combinations, 0 to 9. Okay, so in hexadecimal number, every binary combination is represented as a digit. You all know about this. Okay, I am just revising a bit. In hexadecimal, every binary combination is represented as a digit. In decimal number system, on a single digit, you are getting 10 values, right? Whereas in hexadecimal number system, on a single digit, you are getting 16 values. That is, you can store more information in less space, right? Again, I am repeating, in decimal number system, on a single digit, you are getting 10 values. Okay, whereas in hexadecimal number system, in a single digit, you are getting 16 values, right? So for one in decimal number system you are getting 10 values, in the hexadecimal number system for a single digit you are getting 16 values. So which number system is better than? Of course hexadecimal number system, because you can store more information in less space. Okay, you can see over here 10 and 16 seem to be a very small number. Okay, but if you look at the 4-digit number, for example in decimal number system, the maximum 4-digit number is 9999, right? The maximum 4-digit number is 9999 and the lowest 4-digit number is 0000 in decimal number system. But in hexadecimal number system, the maximum 4-digit combination is FFFFH. H is for hexadecimal, FFFFH. So FFFF, that means 65,535. Clear? Now you understood why hexadecimal number system, the maximum 4-digit number in decimal number system for a single digit is 9999, that is 10,000 approx. But in hexadecimal system the maximum is 65,535. Now which one is better, 10,000 or 65,535? Of course 65,535. So both are using the same space. See, decimal number system is also using 4 digits, it is, and the hexadecimal number is also using the 4 digits, FFFF. But which one is better? Which one is using, they both are the same, using the same space, both are using 4-bit space. So but the value is much larger in hexadecimal system. So both are using the same space, but hexadecimal number will give you more information because it uses every possible combinations. So in short, in computers we don't use decimal numbers because it is easy to count. Clear? But computer uses hexadecimal numbers. So microprocessor uses binary form of not decimal numbers. It uses the binary form of hexadecimal numbers. Clear? It in the slide I have given 0001 for addition. So all these 0001, these are all hexadecimal numbers. So microprocessor 8085 or any other microprocessor, microcontroller, whatever you say, they are using the binary form of hexadecimal numbers. Okay, now about hexadecimal and decimal, all you have studied in your number system in your digital classes. Okay, so I have only given a small revision. So the microprocessor converts these hexadecimal numbers into binary numbers, like the 35H. See, this is 35H. How it is represented? 0011 for 3 and 0101 for 5. Okay, that is every digit, this 3 digit has 4 bits, is represented by 4 bits, because one digit has 16 combinations. In hexadecimal number, one digit has 16 combinations, and 16 combinations require how many bits? 4 bits. So in every digit in hexadecimal numbers requires 4 bits. Okay, now in microprocessor we will come across 8-bit numbers and 16-bit numbers. In your whole course, every time we will be coming across 8-bit numbers and 16-bit numbers. Now let me clear it for once and all. See, for 00H, how it gets stored? 0000 0000. For 74H, how it is getting stored? 0111 0100. 0111 for 7 and 40100. 35H is represented as 0011 0101. So how many total bits are used here? 8 bits. These are all 8-bit numbers. So the smallest 8-bit number is 00H. H is standing for hexadecimal. Okay, and the largest 8-bit number is FFH. Okay, if you talk about 16-bit numbers, then it will be 0000H. So how many bits it will be? How it will be represented in binary form? 0000. Every bit is represented by, every digit is represented by 4 bits. Okay, so 0 is represented as 0000, Again 0 is represented 0 0 0 0 0 0. Now 0 1 to 3 is represented 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 1 0 0 1 0 0 0 1 1. So they require 16 bits, so these are called 16-bit numbers. So the largest 16-bit number is 00008 and the smallest 16-bit number is FFFFH. Clear up to this? Clear up to this? Note down your questions if you have any doubt, and please let me know in the chat box. Give me the questions in my mail address. You all have my mail address, or type your questions in the WhatsApp. I will answer. I will try to answer every possible question. Okay, every possible question. Clear? Okay. Now back to the diagram from where we have started, the computer model. Okay, so this is the, what is this? Let's revise a bit. What is this? This is a processor. What does it do? It fetches, executes and decodes. Sorry, I have written the in wrong synchronization. It will be fetches, decodes and executes. Okay, what is fetch? First it what it does? It fetch, then it decodes and then it executes. Okay, what is this? This is the memory. What does it do? It stores data. What is this? This is the input output. What does it do? It gives the input and produces the output, right? So what are these? These are nothing but bus. Okay, what is bus? Buses are nothing but a set of lines. A set of lines. Okay, now the physical example I want to give. I can't show you here because this is a virtual class. All things are getting virtual now. So if you I'll tell you, this is the best example I have taken for you. Every time you peep inside a pen drive, you take a pen drive and you peep inside it, what you'll see? You'll see a set of lines. So what are they? They are nothing but bus. Okay, so pen drive goes into a port called USB. Okay, that is universal serial bus. Clear? You peep inside the pen drive, you will see a set of lines. They are bus. Okay, it goes into a port called universal serial bus. Another example, if you open a motherboard, okay, you will see a set of lines going from one place to another. What are they? They are nothing but buses. So why buses are used? Buses are used for transferring information. Okay, we need to send information all the time. We have told in the previous slides that microprocessor fetches the opcodes from the memory. So how the fetching is done? The opcodes doesn't come by air to the memory. It needs a medium to come, right? So that medium is nothing but bus. Another example, understood, the processor fetches the opcodes from the memory. You have already learned. So how the fetching is done? It is not coming by air. Okay, it requires a medium. So that medium is the bus. So these are the buses. Okay. Now another example, if you are listening to a song, where is the song stored? Tell me, where is the song stored? Yes, it is stored in the memory. Okay, in the form of zeros and ones. The processor processes it. Clear? The processor processes it and you are listening it to the speaker. That means there are millions and millions of bytes traveling from memory, you are listening to a song. So the song gets stored in the memory in the form of zeros and ones. Okay, the processor processes it and you are listening through the speaker, that is the output device. That means there are millions and millions of bytes traveling from memory to processor and then finally to speaker. So data is transferred. So for all the information to travel right from memory to processor and then to speaker, you need a medium, and that medium is the bus. Clear? So data is transferred through the bus in the form of what? Zeros and ones. Now if you learn to know about how data is transferred in the form of zeros and ones, you let me know in the chat box. I will answer in the next class or in a separate class. I will invite you through Google Meet. Okay, because if I go in details, then it will I can't cover your syllabus. So I will invite you apart from the theory classes in a separate class, then we will discuss about this. Okay, do let me know in the chat box if you want to know how these datas get transferred through the bus in the form of zeros and ones. Okay, now see, one line here, I have told what buses are a set of lines. Okay, I have not drawn lines here. I have represented by this medium, by these arrows. Okay, because if I want to draw, if I go on drawing lines, it will be a cartoon itself. Okay, so one line, remember, just understand clearly, one line, okay, can transmit one bit at a time. Understood? One line can transmit one bit at a time. Okay, so if you want to transmit 4 bits, how many lines you require? You require 4 lines. That is, if there are 4 lines, that bus will be called a 4-bit bus. Understood? Now if you want to transfer 8 bits, how many lines will you require? You will require 8 lines, and that bus will be 8-bit bus. Okay, and if you want to transmit 16 bits, okay, then how many lines will be requiring? You will be requiring 16 lines, and that bus will be 16-bit bus. So more lines, more information can be transferred. So the size of the bus means the size of the lines. If there are 8 lines, that will be a 8-bit bus. If there are 16 lines, there will be a 16-bit bus. If there are 32 lines, there will be a 32-bit bus. Okay, and so on. So the more number of lines, the more information you can transfer. That is very clear. Okay, now a system, right from the basic to most advanced, any processor you take, there are 3 buses. Okay, the address bus, the data bus, and the control bus. Any processor you take or any controller you take, there are 3 buses: address bus, data bus, and control bus. Now, what is the job of address bus? What is the job of address bus? It carries the address. Okay, it carries the address. The address bus is of 16-bit. In 8085, the address bus is of 16-bit. Okay, so what do you mean by 16-bit address bus? Means there are 16 set of lines for carrying the address. Okay, now what is data bus? What is the job of data bus? It is to carry the data. Okay, so the job of the data bus is to carry the data. And what is the job of the control bus? The job of the control bus is to carry out the operations. Okay, to carry out the operations. Now let us take one example. Now this is our memory. Just get it clear in details now. This is our memory, right? Now this is your data. We are going to store millions and millions of data in the memory. So for storing the data, there are millions and millions of locations. So every location in the memory has its unique address. Okay, has its unique address, and in that location there is some data. Clear? This is your memory, this is your location, and this is your data section. This location, every location has its unique address. See, this 1000, 4000, 5000, these are all address of the locations. These are all address of the locations. I have not mentioned here age. By default, what I have told, all the address, all the data will be in hexadecimal form. I have already told. So these 1000, 4000, 5000, all these are addresses, okay, of the location, and in that particular address these data are stored. Okay, these I have taken as an example. Okay, just an example. Say in 1000H memory location, which data is stored? 33H. Now tell me, 1016-bit or 8-bit? 1016-bit or 8-bit? It is a 16-bit number. Why? This is an hexadecimal form. So this one, how many combinations will be required if you write in binary? 0001, this 0, 0000, this for 0, this 0, 0000, this is 000. So total 16 bits. So this is a 16-bit address. So in 8085, the address are always of 16-bit and the data are always of 8-bit. Address bus is of 16-bit, the data bus is of 8-bit. Understood? So the memory, this is a 16-bit memory location, and in that 16-bit memory location this 8-bit data is stored. For example, in 4000, in the 16-bit 4000 memory location, this 25H, this 8-bit 25H data is stored. Similarly, in this 5000 memory location, this is a 16-bit memory address. In 5000 location, this data 77H is stored. Clear? Now, the microprocessor is not happy. Okay, the microprocessor is not happy. What it wants to do? It wants to change the data stored in memory location 25H, okay, to 35H. It will change the data from 25H to 35H. Okay, so what it will, how the operation will take place? Okay, now first of all, this address bus will come to the picture. This address bus will come to the picture. What the microprocessor will do? The microprocessor will send the memory location 4000H over the address bus. Understood? The microprocessor will send this 4000 memory location over the address bus. Once it sends the 4000 memory location over the address bus, this particular memory location 4000H in the memory section will be selected. Clear? The microprocessor will send 4000H over the address bus, and this 4000 memory location will get selected. Now all the operation, once the memory location gets selected, then all the operation that will be going on will be between the processor and this 4000 memory location. Okay, other memory locations will not come to the picture. Clear? Once this 4000 memory location gets selected, all the process will be now between the processor and the 4000 memory location. Clear? So the what is the function of the address bus here? The function of the address bus is to select the address. Clear? Is to select the address. So once the processor, now the address is selected, so now what the processor will do? The processor will send what data is wants to write in 4000 memory location? 35H. So once the microprocessor will send the 35H data over the data bus. Okay, that understood? Previously it was 25H, now it will send 35H over the data bus. Clear? Okay, now once it sends 35H over the data bus, is the operation complete? Will it be replaced by 35H? No. The processor will send that write signal over the control bus. Now once the control bus gets the write signal, okay, the 35H data will be written in the memory location 4000H. Understood? So if you, so what is the function of the control? What is the function of the control bus here? The function of the control bus will give is to give the signal whether the data is to be read or write. Understood? Now what is read and write? You all know, if you take the data from the memory, okay, if you take the data from the memory, it is called read operation, and if you are putting the data from the processor to the memory, it is called write operation. Understood? Remember, the names read and write are always used with reference to the processor. Okay, if I say, just remember once it for all, just make it clear. If I say read operation, you will be requiring in your timing diagrams in the theory classes, read and write, very important. If I say read operation, what is reading? Processor is getting the data. Processor is getting the data from the memory. Okay, if I say read operation, processor is getting the data from the memory. And if I say write operation, processor is sending the data to the memory. Processor is sending the data to the memory. We will get this more clear when you will start your programs or you will start reading timing diagrams in your theory lectures. Okay, so back to our example. So the processor wants to write the data. Okay, so it sends the signal what to the control bus, that the processor will send the signal to the control bus. Which signal? write signal. It wants to send the data 35H to the memory location 4000H, and thus once the control bus gets the signal 35H which was on the data bus, okay, it will be written into the memory location 4000H. So 25H will be replaced by now 35H. Is this clear? Is this clear? Understood? First, what it has done, it has put the 4000 memory location in the address bus. The 4000, after putting the address, putting the address on the address bus, which memory location was selected? The particular 4000 memory location was selected. Now after selecting a memory location, whatever operation is done will be done between the processor and the 4000 memory location. Other memory locations will not come to the picture. So the function of the address bus was to select the particular 4000 memory location. Okay, so once the 4000 memory location is selected, what will be done? What will the microprocessor will do? The microprocessor will place the 35H data on the data bus. Okay, so after the 35H is placed on the data bus, okay, it will send the control signal, write signal on the control bus. So once the control bus get the right signal, the 35H which was placed on the data bus will be written in the memory location 4000H. Clear? Clear? Okay. Now let us take another example. Now the processor wants to write the signal 77H. The processor wants to write the signal 77H, okay, in memory location 5000H. Okay, in memory location 5000H. Clear? Now, so the first step, what the microprocessor will do? The first step, tell me. Yes, it will place the address 5000H in the address bus. Clear? So once it sends the signal address over the address bus, which memory location will be selected? This 5000H memory location will be selected, right? This 5000H memory location will be selected. Now whatever operation will be going on, that will be between the microprocessor and the memory location 5000H. Okay. Now next what will do? Which data it wants to write? That 77H. So this data will be placed on the data bus. Clear? This 77H will be placed on the data bus. Okay. Then the microprocessor will send the right signal over the control bus, and 77H will be written in the memory location 5000H. Clear? Clear? Okay. Now one more example and we are going to wrap up for today. Now the memory location 1000H contains 33H by default. Okay, for these are examples. Okay, don't take it for granted that these data are always stored in this memory. These I have taken as just as an example. Okay, now the memory location 1000H contains data 33H. Now the processor wants to know what data is stored in 1000H. Clear? The processor wants to know what data is stored in 1000H. That means the processor wants to read the data. The processor wants to read the data. Okay, it wants to take the data from the memory. What I have told, if the processor gets the data from the memory, it is called a read operation. So it wants to read the data, that which it wants to know which data is stored in memory location 1000H. Okay, so what it will do first, it will place the memory location 1000H over the address bus, right? First of all, the processor will send the address 1000H over the address bus. Okay, now next what it will do, here is a bit difference. Okay, here is a bit difference. Next, the microprocessor will send the read signal over the control bus. See here, in the write operation, the data used to be placed in the second step, the data was placed in the data bus. But here, after selecting the address 1000H, what the microprocessor has done, it has sent the read signal over the control bus. Okay, that you have to read the data stored in the 1000 location. which data is stored in the 1000 location, you have to read that data and send it to the microprocessor. Okay, so once the control bus gets the read signal, okay, so the data 33, then the data stored in memory location 1000H, that is 33H, that will be placed where? Over the data bus. Okay, that will be placed over the data bus, and after the data bus got the data 33H, that will be read by the processor. Okay, okay, are you clear? So again I am repeating here the read signal. First of all, it wants to know, the processor wants to know what data is stored in the memory location 1000H. Okay, so what it has done first, it has placed the data 1000H over the address bus. Then after this, the memory location 1000H got selected, right? Then what it has done in the second step, it has sent the read signal over the control bus. That means it wants to gauge the data from the memory location. Clear? So after it got the signal, okay, the data which was stored in memory location 1000H, that is 33H, is placed over the data bus, and the microprocessor read the data that was stored in location 1000H. Clear? So data bus is bidirectional, that is it can both receive the data, it can both send the data. Okay, address bus is unidirectional. See, but this is I have cut it. It is unidirectional. That means it will only send the address to select the memory locations. Okay, so I think this is the basics of the microprocessor that I wanted you should learn. Okay, you should have. So today we are ending here. So if you have any queries, do send your questions in your mail, in my mail address, or in the WhatsApp group, or I will try to answer as much as possible. And if you want to learn anything extra that I've already stored, that I've already told about how the buses are transferring zeros and ones. Okay, let me know. I will take a separate lecture apart from your classes. Okay, so see you in the next class. Stay safe, and I'll give you the list of instructions, list of programs that will be having in our microprocessor classes. Okay, I'll mail you the list of instructions. Don't want to waste your time by telling the instructions one by one. I'll mail you the list of instructions, and stay safe. So goodbye for today. Okay, do send me your questions, do send me your queries. I am always available. Okay, I'll try to answer as much as possible. Okay, so bye. Thank you.